Yes, sir.
Are the physical and psychological pressures which are designed for use in SEER school for training students intended to be used against detainees to obtain intelligence?
No, Mr. Chairman.
And why not?
Those techniques are derived from what has historically happened to our personnel who have been detained by the enemy. From those we derive some learning objectives and some situations to put students through so that we can test their decision-making building and also use some of those strategies to increase their resistance and the confidence that they would be able to survive if they're subjected to them. It's not the same at all as something that would be applied in an interrogation setting.
Now, during the resistance phase of training, where SEER school instructors play the role of interrogators, is there a phrase that you give to students which they could use to make the training stop?
Yes, sir.
Are SEER instructors trained interrogators?
No, they are not, Mr. Chairman.
Do you know why you were being asked for the information by Colonel Baumgartner?
I assumed it was related to, questioning, just as the title says, the psychological effects of resistance training.
But you know why he was asking you? Did he say anything about higher-ups?
He did. As I said in my written statement, he said that he was being asked from above about that matter, but I did not question him further as to who was asking him or why.
Do you remember saying that, Colonel Baumgartner?
Yes, sir.
Who was above? Who are you?
The Office of the General Counsel.
All right. Did you know, Dr. Ogrisseg, that they were considering using these techniques against detainees when you sent this information?
The only hint of that I got was the question that I got from Lieutenant Colonel Baumgartner was that someone was asking about it. I certainly never would have assumed, based on my memo, which clearly pertains to medically screened, medically monitored trainees, that there would be inferences about this that would be used to try to promote these types of procedures in real-world detainee handling.
So you did not believe when you sent this memo that what you said about the lack of psychological harm given the controls there, that these techniques would be used against detainees?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Senator Graham.
Mr. Schiffrin, is that right? Am I saying your name right?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. It was my understanding that Mr. Haynes was expressing some concern that we were not getting good intelligence based on rapport building techniques and that we had to do something new and different. Is that correct?
I'm not sure specifically, Senator. My recollection is over a period of time, weeks or months, I was privy to or attended meetings where the discussion was progress or lack of progress in the exploitation of detainees. I remember attending at least 2 or 3 meetings with Major General Dunleavy, for example, when he would come up, he came up once every month or two, brief the secretary, brief the deputy secretary, brief the general counsel in separate meetings, and I, along with 5 or 6 other members of our office, attended those meetings. During those meetings, there was often discussion about what was working, what wasn't working at Guantanamo. And there was a general sense that we ought to be more effective, but for some reason we're not.
What were you? So basically this was driven by a desire to get better information from the detainees at Guantanamo Bay. And the feeling was that we're not getting enough, something else needs to be tried. Is that the general proposition here?
Something else needs to be tried. I think my sense was that maybe we're not smart about this. And that's why my first request to JPRA was for all the historical materials they had of what worked and what didn't work. And in fact, I have a specific recollection of being told by the person I spoke to on the phone that we have this information, we have a library, but it's at Fairchild Air Force Base near Spokane, and it was going to take some time to get it. And I, of course, the way our office ran, Jim Haynes asked me to look into this, and a few hours later or the next day said, well, what have you got? And I said, well, I found where some material lies, but it's 3,000 miles away, and it's going to take more than a day to get here. And he said, well, that's not good enough. And I probably called back to Fort Belvoir and said, gee, I'm under pressure to get this material here as quickly as possible. And I think within 4 or 5 days, 2 members, as my recollection, drove up from Fort Belvoir with several boxes of materials. And I think they occupied 2 or 3 board feet on my shelf in my small office. And I went through them. 98% of it was from the 1950s, post-Korean War studies, professional journals, articles, analysis of the experience of our servicemen in Korea.
Okay. Colonel Baumgartner,
Yes, Senator.
do the techniques we're talking about work?
In what frame of reference, sir?
Getting intelligence.
I'm not an intelligence officer, so I don't know. But they work in our training process to demonstrate to students how to resist somebody getting intelligence from you, and that's what they're for.
So you don't have an opinion as to whether or not they yield good information?
I don't, sir. I wasn't there.
Doctor, do you have an opinion about?
Senator, my expertise comes in the realm of training, and I certainly know that these techniques are effective in getting our trainees to learn the skills and develop the confidence that we need to in order to survive and return with honor from captivity. I do not have a...
Based on your studies of this subject matter, is it fair to say that you can get almost anybody to say anything if you're hard enough on them over time?
I would say that that's true, but that's also the problem. You could get them to say anything.
Thank you.
Thanks. Senator Lieberman.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Let me first thank you and the staff of the committee for an extraordinary exercise in governmental oversight, congressional oversight of a very important topic with a exhaustive and I think important investigation that you've done. And I want to thank you and Senator Graham for your outstanding opening statements. This is one of those cases where hindsight is always the clearest kind of sight, but nonetheless it's important to look back so that we can learn from what's happened in the past. I would start by echoing what Senator Levin said at the beginning of his remarks, which is that the members of this committee know that intelligence gathered from detainees is critical to our success, our safety, and the safety of our troops and our allies in the war against or with Islamist terrorists. We've had more than one commander, particularly from Iraq or Afghanistan, tell us that information gained from detainees is the most significant form of intelligence still that we obtain in order to confront the enemy that we're facing in Iraq and Afghanistan and throughout the world. So this is an important matter, but obviously we're a nation, as my colleagues have said, and I need not belabor it, that is a nation of law. And therefore, to me, the standard that we have to hold up in our attempts to obtain information from detainees is it legal and is it effective? In other words, does it produce information that is helpful, or does it have other effects? And might it produce, as Dr. Ogrisseg said in response to Senator Graham, information that's not truthful? Or, in a larger context, as we've seen after Abu Ghraib, might it affect our standing generally in our effectiveness of the war on terrorism? I remember once being with Senator McCain and Senator Graham meeting at Camp Bucca in Iraq, meeting which is a large detention center, meeting a former member of Al-Qaeda in Iraq who said that one of the reasons he was motivated to join Al-Qaeda in Iraq was what he heard had happened at Abu Ghraib. So let me, and what I find in this story that the investigation of the committee has revealed, in hindsight, is